Welcome back to Brent's Prime Food Adventures. I'm Brent. I'm here with Greg Nott, the owner of the Memphis Bison Ranch. The item we're going to talk about today is environmental and ethical factors. This is the fourth of a four-part series about bison that Greg and I have spent on this day. The very first one we talked about some of the history of bison, and then we talked about the history of Greg in the Bison Ranch and a little bit of the history of bison. We talked also as well an episode about the nutritional benefits, another one about the flavor and preparation, and about the environmental and ethical factors. That's what we're discussing right now and today, environmental and ethical factors. And that's going to be followed up by, I'm going to be searing some steaks, so let's see how they turn out. So Greg, one of the benefits to bison, your bison in particular, the environmental and the ethical factors. And I have some notes here. Greg and I are just going to kind of follow here just to keep us on track. But the first one, because this is the impact of bison on the environment in general. Sustainable grazing is what this is. And what I want to make sure that you understand if you're going to be dining on bison is that they're native to North America and they're grazing on the prairie, which is native to North America. So it's the way it was before North America was colonized. So at Greg's Ranch, the bison are native North American bison that are dining on the prairie, native to North America. And one of the things that I need to point out, that the hooves stir the topsoil. So again, the prairie is regenerating as well as the waste, and that helps fertilize the land. Greg, do you do anything with the bison waste?
No, it stays right where it's at. It gets absorbed. All those minerals get absorbed back into the soil, and their hooves, the action of that helps work the surface of the soil to, make it absorb everything back in, and the water, the rain. You used a very key term in there, regenerate. There is such a thing as regenerative agriculture, and it kind of goes beyond what we call sustainable. You don't want to just sustain what's already there. You put animals on there, you want them to regenerate the soil and just improve on the health of the soil.
Give me a high five for that, because that is something that is I hear all the time. As we are in the Boulder, Colorado area, farm to table, regenerative farming. There are so many things, and I never had it explained to me that way that Greg just did. You're not just keeping the property the way it was, you're improving it. Regenerative
right.
is actually making it healthier.
That's right.
Wow.
We studied under some different practitioners, and a lot of them will refer back to a gentleman by the name of Alan Savory, who's done a lot of work in that field. Fascinating information.
So we're doing regenerative farming. I didn't even realize that when I came out to the ranch that we're doing regenerative farming. That'll be other episodes, you guys. I got 60 plus ideas from Brent's Prime Food Adventures, farm to table, regenerative farming. Another one is slow food. Slow food is something that is just taking taking this area by storm. I can't wait to talk more about that. All these things. Food is medicine. I thought I was just going to do a cooking show. Look at the things I'm learning. Okay, so sustainable grazing. It's not just the livestock themselves, but it's the habitat, the underlying habitat. The lower environmental impact. This is part of the environmental and the ethical factors from dining on bison, and in particular bison that is at the Memphis Bison Ranch, which is, again, I just want to reemphasize, it's a smaller ranch, grass-fed only cattle. I do back real quick to sustainable grazing. Are you planting any seed at all?
We're not. We've considered it, and we may at some point do some additional seeding, just using native prairie grasses and stuff, just to help bring things back even further. We haven't, but we're considering it.
Despite having 80 acres, guys, that's still not enough for the bison herd. So that's where the seeding may come into his future, and that's also why we talked about how he's supplementing with more grass. Tell me again what you're feeding.
Just a grass and alfalfa.
Yeah. Again, no grain, grass and alfalfa. And the reason he has to do that is because his herd, despite being free range, all the good things that we've been talking about, a small herd, a small ranch, it's still not enough because they're used to roaming even more freely than what they have, despite being free range. Okay, so lower environmental impact in general. Bison produces. This is all items that we've talked in advance. I'm aware that bison is. It's been told to me that bison, not by Greg, bison produces lower greenhouse gas emissions than cattle, and also, we'll go into the next thing there. What do you know about that as a bison rancher?
I've heard that. The small operation we have, it's really not a factor out here. We hear people talking about, the negative impacts of cattle ranching. I don't agree with it. I don't think that it is negative. But
having said that, bison versus cattle, you were talking about a biologist.
That is true. We have a customer in Boulder, Colorado, and he likes to talk about the benefits of bison. Now, I can't speak scientifically like he can, but he goes out, he studies the soil, and he says, based on what he sees, that the impact of the bison is much desirable to what he sees with other livestock, with cattle, with whatever. And that is an expert in the field. No, I can't. I can't speak to it scientifically. I'm repeating what he's telling me.
I appreciate Greg's candor in saying that's not necessarily something that I can talk about from a scientific standpoint. I'm not a scientist. I'm a small business person. Appreciate that. Something else that I've learned is that, again, Greg was like, I'm not sure about that. I've heard, or I've learned, or I've seen studies that says that bison uses less water, especially when roaming in open pastures, than cattle.
Okay.
All right. The last environmental and ethical factor we want to talk about today is just humane treatment in general. A lot of bison, are raised, I'm going to say ethically, by farmers like Greg here, on small ranches where they roam freely on grasslands most of their lives. There are commercial bison businesses. One of them, you mentioned Ted Turner earlier. Let's talk about Ted Turner. Tell me what you know about Ted Turner and bison.
Ted Turner is the largest bison owner and operator in the world. Now they're only raised in North America. I have to back up. There are a few in Europe now, just very few.
I will back up the backup. My Polish heritage. There's actually a bison. There's actually a bison herd that is European bison versus American bison.
That's right.
That's it's in Poland, and somehow they kept it going. But it's not something that I believe is used as livestock. I believe it's just something that there are bison. But back
Right.
to Ted Turner being the largest bison producer in the world, which means it's North America. I think that's where we were going.
That's correct. And over the years, being involved in the different organizations that we're in, I've gotten to know some of his staff. I've been very impressed with what they're doing. Yeah, he has a humongous operation. I think in total, at one point, he had close to 50,000 head of bison. And he was very concerned not just about the health of the animals, but the health of the soil in his ranches. And are they thriving? And so, even at that large scale, I commend him for what they're doing. And his organization has been very helpful. I've called some of his ranch managers and say, I have a question. Here's what I'm seeing, and they're very helpful. They have resources that I don't have, and they're willing to share their knowledge and just to help out some little guy.
And not all the bison is grass fed. Some is grass fed and grain finished, like the cattle. You're
Right.
saying some of Ted Turner's he's starting to maybe focus a little more on, or starting to allocate part of his herd to grass fed only.
At least one of the ranches that I'm aware of, they are doing some 100% grass fed animals.
If that's a preference, but I don't. Greg and I are both stepped back from here. This maybe a little bit of this is hearsay or what we know, but it's interesting as heck to me. I'm enjoying the conversation that we're having about that. Bison ranchers seem to have a real connection to the land and to the animals themselves.
I would agree. Yeah.
And then when we talk about humane treatment, I feel like that's something that is just in general a bison, a quality of bison ranchers everywhere. You had mentioned that you have a motto or a credo for your Primal Bison product line. Tell me what that is.
Before we even had a ranch, and this was still just a dream, we went to a seminar, a holistic land management seminar, based on information that Alan Savory has developed, who is a very big name in the regenerative agriculture world. I was driving back from this 4-day seminar and really did not understand everything that I had just heard, but I knew it was the right thing to do. And I wrote the phrase, restore the animal, restore the land, restore the people. When you return animals to the land and raise them properly, and so you have very healthy animals, your soil is going to be healthier, and all the people around that and consuming that ultimate product is going to be healthier too. It's all related. We're not living in a vacuum. It's very important that we do every step of the way correctly.
That moved me. I can't say it any other way. Wow. Websites again?
PrimalBison.com or MemphisRanch.com.
If you'd like to order his product, in addition to going to the websites that we just discussed, I have a QR code, which I'm going to show right now. You can go ahead and hit the QR code, and that'll take you right through to the websites. And what I would ask, if this is your first time viewing one of the episodes Greg and I are doing about the Memphis Bison Ranch, go back and look at the first, the second, the third, and this is the fourth, because there's just a whole bunch of material. It was too much to cover in one episode, and I think if this is something that really interests you, it really piques your interest, something you really want to learn more about, then I would go through all different 4 episodes. I will say that we're going to go ahead and cook up some steaks next. So other than that, I guess what I'm going to say is cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you. Welcome to the Vail Valley. Today we're going to cook the boneless bison ribeyes that we got from the Memphis Bison Ranch. I'm here with my dear friend, John Provost. John attended as a graduate from the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park. By the way, John, I've been there. I've driven past
it's
on
a beautiful
business.
Campus,
Oh my gosh, right there in the Hudson River.
Hudson River's right there.
Absolutely beautiful. And of course, I drove by, and I think I even went in the lot and said, "Ooh, my friend John went to school here." Arguably the best culinary school in the United States. And John and I, John is a chef, a professional chef. At one point, he had the second largest catering company in the Vail Valley. And John and I are going to prepare the ribeyes, meaning John is going to prepare the ribeyes, and I'm going to do most of the filming. John and I were roommates in Vail, Colorado in the 1980s. He was 20, I was 21. We roomed blind. We lived in at least 3 different places in the Vail Valley.
Yeah.
And what happened was I was a University of Colorado Boulder student, and I needed to establish residency so I could pay in-state tuition. And so I went and lived in Vail for a year and a half, saved some money, went back to school as an in-state resident. So I was only in Vail for that year and a half, but we both did the hairbag ski bum things.
Oh my God. We were tearing it up in Vail almost every day. We ended up working evenings so we could ski every single day. We had fun.
I had a job in a formal French restaurant as a waiter. And really, John taught me everything I knew. He was with me when I applied. And John worked at a famous restaurant. I think I'll go ahead and say it, Sweet Basil's. I do feel like they have some Michelin ratings or stars.
They are very well known around the country in the Vail Village. And I worked there in the 80s, and they're still going strong. Great restaurant.
John and I had this program where we would work every night just about. We were just kids. We were full of energy. And he was a cook or a chef at Sweet Basil's, and I was the waiter at the restaurant. Was called Alon's, the French restaurant. And so what would happen was every night we'd drive in together. I had the car, I'd drop him off at work, and then we'd go through our shifts. And then because usually the kitchen was done before the staff, he would pick me up at Alon's. And then there's a place called Bridge Street. We'd end up on Bridge Street.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. And so John, when we roomed blind and we first met, how did that go?
It went well. I had flown in from the East Coast, never been to the West.
Where are you from?
I'm from Western Massachusetts.
Yeah, Holyoke,
Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. And so flew in right into Vail in Avon, was shuttled up to employee housing for Vail Resorts. And I walked in, I said, "Hey, I'm your new roommate, John." And he was reading the New York Times with his glasses on or whatever, looking all professional. And I had probably long hair at the time, because we're talking 1983, folks. And I said, "Hey, mind if I smoke some ganj?" He's like, "Go ahead." Because I was a pothead then.
Do you smoke anymore?
I do not.
Okay.
I've been sober for 24 years. Personally just decided to stop, but did a lot of pot, a lot of beer, but also in my career, and you're into it, is great wines.
Yeah.
And I do miss that a little bit. My clients always had fantastic, expensive Rothschilds, Mouton, Lafitte's, things like that. So I miss that a little bit. But,
in addition to at one time owning the second largest catering company in the Vail Valley, we have this thing in Colorado, we call them the 1%ers. And those are very wealthy people. that come out to Colorado because it's wonderful here. There's a reason John and I live in Colorado. And the one percenters own a lot of the multi-million-dollar homes, not just in Vail, but in Aspen and even in the Boulder area. And John also had a career as a personal chef for many years, and they would fly, these wealthy people would fly John all across the United States to cook for him, or cook for them. So he's retired as a chef now. He hasn't forgotten anything. And I just want to say again, John taught me so much about food. My background, again, as everyone knows, is about food. I grew up working in a family-owned gourmet meat market. I had left 30 years. I went back and I owned it the last 10 years that it was open. And so we had a lot in common when it came to food.
Sure did.
And John did have a nickname, guys. I have to say it was Johnny Ganj. And everybody...
It's the 80s, you gotta remember that.
It was the 80s. It's all legal now.
Right.
And he's dry for what it's
dry.
worth. So that's John and I. That's how we know one another. John, we're just a couple hours away from one another. We've reunited after being away for 30, 40 years.
Yeah, a long time.
And John truly is the best chef that I know. Okay, Chef John, we are now going to talk about mise en place. Did I say it correctly?
Yes, you did.
And what does that mean?
It means everything in its place.
Everything in its place, and it's a French term, correct?
Correct.
So what we're going to have tonight, I'm going to come around, and John is going to point out everything that we're going to have for dinner and why we're having it. So knock yourself out.
Okay, so as Brent said, we're going to have for our main course is the Primal Bison Ranch's ribeye steak, boneless, and that's their label. And they look beautiful. They're cryovac. A ribeye steak, as you know, has a lot of fat, the deco, and this is all delicious. You must be a fat lover to enjoy ribeye steaks.
So
Okay?
we call them Delmonticos in Michigan, by the way, John.
Yeah.
And what a boneless ribeye is, this happens to be bison. It's just a boneless prime rib.
Exactly.
Everyone needs to know that.
Exactly.
John, can you show me that steak again, just for a second? That side.
This side here?
Yeah.
Yep.
This is what I like. I call this cat meat. And the reason I pick these steaks out is because I enjoy when I eat a boneless ribeye.
Oh, boy.
I enjoy the cat meat, as does everybody in my family, John.
And mine too. And it's fatty, but when you're grilling it or searing it like we're going to be doing tonight, this is going to get crispy. We're going to crisp up this fat, and it's delicious.
What do you think? Those are about 1.25 inches, maybe?
Yeah, I think, yeah. And I think he's saying they're about 0.85 of a pound, so not quite.
14 ounces. 14 ounces
Right.
would be a better. Okay, so we sell the steaks. What else do we have?
So to accompany the steaks, we're going to do a saute of mushrooms, a mix. These are tree oysters. Okay, very delicious, mild. These are baby portobellos. Okay, we'll show you how to trim those up. These are shiitake, which are great flavored mushrooms. You cannot use the stem though, and we'll show you how to do that. And we'll prep those. Okay, so those are going to be in a sauce of demi-glace. And what we have here is we have a product that we're going to use that is available in fine stores or online. Brent will show you where that can come from. And it's a demi-glace, and Brent will get into that later because making your own demi-glace is really, really time consuming. And for the ease of today's cooks at home, this is available with tons of flavor, and we'll show you what that comes like. And it comes frozen, so you can use little bits at a time. Break it up and use little bits at a time.
John, we've talked about maybe making a demi-glace together,
Yeah,
right? But
yeah.
is it an all-day, one-day process, or are we going to go over 2 days on a demi-glace?
Oh, it can be 2 days.
Yeah, I thought so too. So I do want to see here, though, you'll see that it's veal. And at my store, we did sell veal bones, veal knuckle
Right,
bones.
that's how you make it.
In the freezer. And people would want to make their own demi-glace. They could come to Raise Prime Foods and get the veal bones to make their own demi-glace.
Yeah. It's a big procedure.
So rather than do that, John's not making demi-glace on a regular basis anymore like he used to.
No.
How many times have you made a demi-glace?
Oh, hundreds and hundreds.
Hundreds.
Yeah.
So now we just go, and this is there is going to be a link for this in the description below where you can buy demi-glace just like us that we're using. You can see that it's expensive. So this is what we're doing. Well, since we're showing them, John, we have some herbs there. Tell us what fresh herbs we have.
Well, we have rosemary, which is a classic, easy to grow at home, indoors or whatnot, and it just goes great with meat. All right, and we'll show you what we're going to do with that. You used it, I believe, in a different dish, ossobuco, earlier in the show. It's just a real flavorful, woodsy type flavor, and it goes great with meat and mushrooms. And then we also have fresh thyme, which again is fairly easy to grow, and it's got a flavor and a fragrance. It's thyme. You just have to get it and smell it, and it's good also with your turkeys coming up, whatever. Your turkeys, your meats, your mushrooms, poultry, all that kind of thing.
What else do we have here, John? What's in the containers?
Okay, I have salt and pepper.
Okay, salt and pepper, sure.
And so I use kosher salt always.
Okay, why do you use kosher salt, John?
It can be put on your ingredients in a much uniform, consistently sprinkled. You can see it, and you know exactly what you're putting on your product. And then I use a restaurant coarse grain pepper. And the same thing, it's much easier to see what you're applying to your product. So that's that. And then we always use whole butter. I use unsalted butter.
He says we. John uses whole butter. That's what he does.
Right. So there is some big thing now, grass-fed beef, but they are also making grass-fed butter from grass-fed cows, churning it and then making it like that.
Okay.
Land of the Lakes has been around for a long time. I do recommend using unsalted butter in all of your cooking
Why?
It can be too much. I'd rather add my salt knowing how much I'm putting in there versus how much could be in a stick or a pad of butter. So those are used for flavor. Butter's flavor.
In addition to the steaks and the mushrooms, we're going to make a salad.
Correct.
So
We're going to use some organic red arugula, which you can grow indoors. A friend of mine grew this stuff. It's just arugula. Arugula has a nutty, little bit of a bitter flavor, but delicious. And we're going to pair that with a couple ingredients that are unique. And Brent's going to tell you all about these later on, but they're infused olive oil and vinegars, okay? So
you're going to infuse with anything. What are these infused with?
This particular vinegar that we're using is a balsamic vinegar, but it's flavored by black cherry, okay? And that's going to take a little bit of the bite away. It's a little sweeter with the balsamic. This olive oil is infused with leek, okay? So a little bit of onion as well on the salad, which we're going to cut with some nice diced apple and then some shredded Parmesan, which you can obviously buy shredded in the market or buy how expensive or not you want to purchase. So that's going to be a really delicious salad we're going to have with dinner. And I'll show you how we're going to make that salad. It's so easy. It's bing, bang, boom.
We're going to focus on the organic nature of so many of the ingredients, starting with the bison to the mushrooms to the herbs, so to the salad, the arugula. That is something that I think health-conscious people are really focusing on as they try to get away from maybe GMOs as well as petrochemicals, fertilizers, things like that.
Yeah. You notice that anymore, people don't eat a lot of bread. You could make some croutons if you want to go with this salad. Sourdough, it's great. Olive oil and salt. Basic. But we're not using a lot of bread anymore in our services. People are getting away from it.
Dairy too.
And dairy. And then there's the gluten-free. And there's plenty of gluten-free breads out there today that's in flours and all that if you are into baking. My philosophy anymore when I'm cooking dinner is a beautiful salad that has a fair amount of ingredients in it, be it fruit, some cheeses, organic cheeses, but also you could add vegetables. Just say we took butternut squash, and diced it and roasted it. It goes great with this salad. So I'm incorporating into maybe a first course some vegetables, things like that. Then for my entree, I'm keeping the focus on the protein, okay? Be it bison, elk, beef from Colorado, prime is the best you can get. Lamb, Colorado lamb is unbelievable. So I'm trying to focus on keeping those flavors there and focusing on that. I don't need a whole lot of starch or vegetables on the plate. I can do that at the first course and maybe even in the appetizers we're serving. So that's kind of where I like to be when it comes to preparing a simple dinner. I'm going to take these bison out of their cryovac and I'm going to put them on this tray which has paper towel to dry. All I know is you want to have your meat at room temperature and dry, and it's going to produce the crust sear that you're looking for. Okay, you don't want cold meat because what's going to happen? It's going to just buckle up, and it's just going to make it difficult to accomplish that sear that we're looking for.
Two important things with steaks, guys, and or anything. It could be seafood, it could even be vegetables. We want the product to be dry. You see John making it dry. And then we also want it to be room temperature.
Yep. So, let's put that back here for a sec.
Only salt and pepper is what we're doing here.
Yeah, well, we're going to do a little thing that you've done in the past is put on some of those sprigs.
Right, so we talked about, I guess, the thyme and the rosemary as well. You're right, John.
So I'm going to get a piece of parchment paper out. Okay? I don't like to put product onto a straight up aluminum pan. These are like cooking sheets made for cooking in ovens that are industrial. You can get them online and things like that. This is a quarter sheet pan. Just nice, especially if you have a small oven.
John, do we need to trim the steaks at all? Are we going to trim them before? Is there?
So,
okay.
You know, you don't have to eat all the fat. They do have a large deco in some of them, and fat helps create moisture, marbling, for it to be tender, things like that. So, you know, it's all good. So I'm gonna just apply a little bit of olive oil right here.
The Delmonico, as I call them, the boneless ribeye, was my father's favorite steak. And you know, when you own a meat market, and it's my favorite steak too. Well, actually, I would do a bone-in. Sometimes I call those rib steaks or a bone-in ribeye. It's something called. They're called club steaks. They've got some different names for them. Because I like the bone, but I went with the boneless this time, just from an ease. I've eaten many boneless ribeyes, just from an ease of preparation.
And what I don't do prior to cooking is I do not salt the product, okay?
Okay.
And I don't want to do that because that can pull moisture out while I'm doing all of my other ingredients.
I'm going to talk about John's dogs now. John lives on 40 acres. We really are. You'll see in the pictures how beautiful it is where we are. What's our altitude here, John, about, if you had to guess?
8,200.
8,200 feet. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I am going to go skiing at Keystone on my way home to Boulder on Saturday. John and I skied last year. We reunited on the slopes. I was Mr. Blue Cruiser, though. We weren't doing the double blacks, Daffies, you know.
Let your fans know that we are senior citizens. So this is the stem of the oysters. Just take that off right there.
And you know, oysters are, how much are they a pound? Oyster mushrooms. And here we are just throwing that stem out. We are not going to use that.
Yeah. And those are a little mushy. So really, when you're purchasing product, you really, if you can, get it hand-picked out of a bin so you can make sure that you have not too moist, any mold, things like that. Most markets that are gourmet markets most likely will have that availability. That's kind of what you're looking for there.
So John,
shiitakes.
I've run the whole gamut with mushrooms. I've seen them washed and then like put in a colander to dry. I've seen them just use dirt and all. I've seen this before. And now we have what I'm learning today is that we are going to use them just with a little rinsing, drying them with or washing them with a moist cloth.
Yep.
That makes sense.
And some mushrooms need it, some don't. Ones that are grown close to the soil, and most of these are farm raised, they're going to have that mulch on there or that compost. And so that's, what can linger down here around the stem. And, you just maybe want to get rid of that. Okay. Shiitakes tend to come fairly clean. Okay. So just real quick, just to make sure nothing's on there.
John, will you just cut one of each right now? Show us how you do it, and then I'm going to go ahead and stop, and then we'll pick it up. Pick it up in a little bit.
I like to have my mushrooms with some size to it. Okay, so I will tend to quarter them or thick slice. Okay, just like that.
This is not the first time John has made Delmonico's for me up in the Vail Valley in his Vail Valley home, but this is the first time we've cooked bison ribeyes together. Yeah. I've had his mushrooms with the demi-glace and the way he cooks his steaks. It's I was here with a friend who thought that was the best steak that person ever had when John cooks. Okay, so
on these I'm just cutting in half, and then the shiitakes I'll cut thick slices. We're gonna make our sauce. I have a large, thick bottom pot here, okay? I have quite a few mushrooms, so I want a big space. Right now I have that grass-fed butter in here, okay? I'm also gonna add a little bit of olive oil.
Is this one of those cast iron enamel lined jobbies? I have one. If you watch previous episodes, you'll see me use it regularly.
Yeah, so we're gonna get that going nice and hot. Also, what we're going to do tonight is we're going to cook inside. All right, it's winter time, it's getting cold. I have a non-stick grill pan. These things are great. And they make them in flat, and they make them in this grill with grill marks or ridges, so you can have your grill marks. So I have that warming up right now. In a minute.
Hot pans is what we're talking about here.
It's going to get hot. Right now I can hear my butter going. Mushrooms absorb a lot of liquid, so I want a lot of butter or olive oil. You can choose on that, but it will suck it up, and then it'll get rid of the other moisture, and then it'll start to cook down.
John, let's talk about the steaks here before we put the mushrooms on. All we did, we put the olive oil on and the pepper, and then we just put on, that's whole rosemary and whole thyme on each one, correct? And it's just soaking it in, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, just doing that, and you can always flip it, pull that, put it on the other side. And this has been going for 15, 20 minutes already, but you can do it.
Is there olive oil and pepper on both sides already?
I'm going to add pepper on this side. The olive oil is just spreading enough. We don't need a lot of oil to have it grilling properly.
And John, here I see that this is the demi-glace, the veal demi-glace.
Correct.
And of that container, I don't know what size that container was. Do you think it was a pound?
It was almost a pound.
Of this, and then we've got about 3/4 of it here.
What was it? Let me see. It was exactly 1 pound.
And this, about 3/4 of the demi-glace is in here. And then we have, John has taken the time to put the arugula here. And then, of course, the grated Parmesan cheese and the apple, that's all hanging out there with the infused olive oil and the infused vinegar.
And I choose not to wear gloves. Most chefs don't. So I wash my hands very often. And that is critical with your knives, your cutting board. You don't want any kind of cross-contamination. I hear our butter and olive oil starting to bubble here. So I think it's hot enough. I'm gonna go ahead and add my mushrooms. Okay. And I'm gonna give them a quick stir. But not too much. I want it just to regain its heat. The more you stir, the more you fiddle, you're gonna cool down your heat.
John, how much do you weigh? How much do you weigh?
I weigh 187 pounds.
How tall are you?
5'7".
Okay, so
No, excuse me, 5'11".
yeah, 5'11". That makes more sense. So I'm 6 foot, and I weigh 200 pounds. I've lost a fair amount of weight. I want to get to 180. John and I talk about things like that all the time. Where I'm going with this is, and yet we're cooking with butter. So this is not an everyday moment for me. I do not cook with butter like this.
Correct.
And there's a reason that one's 187 and one's 200, and we're both working towards 180. So we're going to enjoy this.
Yeah, we try to exercise. I try to ride the Peloton. We tend to cook, and my wife, when she's home, she loves to cook. And she's using a lot of this olive oil and vinegars for flavor. We're not doing any heavy sauces, any butters. If we are
On a regular basis.
on a regular
This
basis.
is a treat.
Now, and I've always said that to my clients, when you hire me, you're treating yourself to a classic French cuisine,
Yeah.
and we use butter and olive oil.
Absolutely.
And cream.
Absolutely.
So, what are you going to do?
Are we adding anything to the, besides the demi-glace, are we adding anything to the mushrooms?
I'm going to add the salt and pepper, and I might take a little bit of that rosemary and thyme, chop some up, add it. That's about it, salt and pepper.
John,
You could add a little onion if you wish. You could deglaze the pan if you're into the alcohol.
with red wine typically.
Red wine, sherry works.
Or sometimes brandy, I've heard.
Of course, brandy. So whatever, I could do that even though I don't drink anymore, because you're really just looking for that flavor. The alcohol burns off,
Yep.
and you're looking for the flavor of the red wine, the fruits, the chocolates, whatever's in that, the wood. The same thing with the brandies, they're aged in oak casks and things like that.
John,
So,
I'm going to catch you by surprise with this question. This isn't something we prepared for, but nowhere are any of the ingredients is there garlic.
no. My wife cooks with garlic. I only cook with garlic in certain dishes. This dish, if I were to add any kind of flavorful root item, maybe a shallot,
Yeah,
maybe sweeter.
sure.
Garlic's tricky. It has a bitter. If you don't do it right, it can be bitter.
Yeah,
So,
especially when you burn it.
and you don't want to burn it. Now, roasting it, it's going to, become a little bit sweeter. It's great with bread and olive oil. So now there's what my mushrooms are looking like. At this point, I'm going to add my salt and pepper. Okay? And this is all
How much?
made by touch, and I'm talking pinches.
So when I put the recipe out there, guys, I'm just going to do my best to estimate. He does season as he goes, though, which is a concept that I've said before in other episodes. Season as you go.
Season as you go. Real important. I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of rosemary out of the fridge.
Now John's going to demonstrate real quick how to properly hold a knife. We just call that a butcher knife, correct?
This is a French knife.
A Frenchie knife, thank you.
Smaller length, easier to handle. They can come really long, depends on your hands. There's a lot of brands out there. I like rosewood handles, lighter in your hand, especially for long-term usage. This is a Henkel, which is an exceptionally good blade.
Yes.
They have, and this is just a lighter instrument that I can use, but you don't hold it like this, you don't put your finger like that, you hold it like this. Okay, now when I'm cutting, this is your guide.
Yeah, look how his fingers are not exposed.
The claw.
Right? Yep.
Okay, and I'm rolling the knife over the cutting board. I'm chopping this rosemary that I pulled off the stem, and I am holding the blade here. That's kind of being my escort across the board. I'm going straight down with my blade, gathering as I go to continue mincing this rosemary.
And that's going to go in the mushrooms?
Yep.
And that's rosemary, not thyme, that's just straight
I'm just
rosemary?
doing the rosemary.
And you pick the, can I call them leaves off the stems?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So I'm going to scoop this up. That's probably a good tablespoon for what we're adding into here.
Oh my gosh, look at those mushrooms. I haven't seen those in a minute. Ooh, I'm going to eat good tonight, everybody.
Okay, so real quick, those mushrooms are looking pretty good. So what we're going to do now, real quick, while we got to there, we're going to go ahead and add our demi-glace. So we're just going to, I cut that into little bricks. And that will dissolve very quickly. I have the heat on low. And we're just going to let that sit and start to...
John, I like my mushrooms on my steak. Do you put them on the steak or do you put them on the side?
Oh no, I'd like them on the steak.
Yeah.
So we're gonna just let that sit. Now, I have a clicking stove, unfortunately. But now my grill pan, as you can see, is starting to smoke. I'm gonna turn on my hood.
Is there olive oil on that yet, or?
No, there's no olive oil. And I don't really need olive oil. I put it on the steak earlier, so I don't need anything on here at all. It's getting hot. The timing's important, everybody. You can make, I need this to cook down just a little bit longer because I want the timing to work where the steaks are finished on the plate presentation, then the mushroom sauce goes on top of that, and then it's served. And we're going to do just a salad and the rib at the same time. And
Yes.
So we'll show you how. I'm just going to quickly dress that salad as this just simmers down a little bit more.
I'm going to come back when the steaks get put on. Look, John, I'm helping.
Nice job. Get out of there, please.
I have been a sous chef for John in the past, but today I'm holding the camera, so this is once again my special guest, John Provost, doing the work while I enjoy it. Reap the benefits.
You know, I had a nickname, Vic, and the business is very stressful. You're cooking for a lot of people. It's got to be perfect. You're doing a wedding for 500 outside. It's intense, right? I was the precursor to Gordon Ramsay.
I don't think you can actually cook.
Yes.
Go on.
Hey?
Go on.
Yeah.
Right, are you going to tone your voice down or are you
Yes.
going to shout like some dick?
Now I've shouted.
Why don't
I
you
will calm
fuck off
down.
to the bookshop, read how to cook a mussel and come back and see me?
Yeah, okay.
And I'll run your fucking restaurant.
Thank you.
Fucking hell, what's all that about? Jesus Christ. Well, at least we broke the ice now anyway. We know where we stand. Yeah.
Okay. That kind of language, that kind of meanness. Hi, great. Don't feel good about it. But now that I'm retired, I'm having a great time just preparing simple meals, but perfect. And that's the whole thing about being a chef. You need to be a good cook first. Being a chef takes a long time. It doesn't come instantly. Out of culinary school, they're like, oh, you can be a chef. No. I worked 5 years plus the 2 prior to the school of 2 years before I got my first chef position. And that was a restaurant also owned by Sweet Basil. It's called Montauk Seafood. 30-something years later, it's still open. 9 out of 10 restaurants fail the first year. So that first year is critical. The food has to be as close to perfection as you can get it. The service, as Brent knows, has to be almost perfect. That combination will lead to a successful business, whereas Montauk is still open probably more than 32 years. Something.
The Montauk is on Long Island, if I remember right.
Yes.
And there's a restaurant
seafood
named after that
restaurant.
area. Uh-huh.
And people didn't think, oh, seafood in the mountains. We're in the middle of the country. We're getting fresh seafood in, shellfish from the East Coast and the West Coast. Flown in to Denver, brought to us fresh off the boat. Unbelievable. People couldn't believe it. 32 years later, still in operation, freshest seafood you can get. As close to, the beaches you can get it. So,
John, while you work a little bit here, I'm going to tell them the 2 times I've been to Cape Cod to visit you or with you, right? Because John is from Boston and he worked on Cape Cod, and that was one of the things when we met. He used to be a cook on Cape Cod. So one time we took a road trip, and again, I'm 21 and he's 20. I had a green Volkswagen Rabbit, 1977 stick shift, and we drove all the way to Cape Cod together. So it's a 2,000-mile trip. And oh boy did we have fun that trip. I can't even begin to tell you the stories. I could, but boy did we have fun.
let's go ahead and start cooking these ribeyes.
All right, let's do it. I'm with you.
Okay. So right here now.
So I noticed you took the rosemary. I'll have you explain.
So I took the rosemary off. Got some flavor. I never salt until I'm ready to put on the grill. The reason I don't want to salt too early is that salt is a preservative. It will draw moisture out of your steak. So I want to add it right before I put it on to the grill. Once I get it on this side, okay.
God, that's a good tip, John. I'm going to follow that one. I didn't always do that all my life.
And anything that you're grilling may have to adjust your temperature at the beginning.
Are we on medium high, or what would you call that heat? Yes.
Right now I'm going to go ahead and salt this side. And you want to heavily season your items. You'll do some. And then what I'm going to do is kind of just sprinkle this stuff around. Now, again, cross-contamination. This has been on raw product. So right now I'm going to cook it.
Yes.
Basically sanitizing it.
Yes.
A little drop in there.
Yes.
That's what I'm doing right now, guys.
Okay, so John, are we going to? Are you a proponent of the one flip rule?
One flip rule?
Yeah, where you only flip the steak once. Yeah, pretty much. And so we're not. Let's talk about meat thermometers for a second, John. Okay? Because for most people like me, even though I'm a good cook and I have this background in food, I did not go to culinary school, and it's common for me to use a meat thermometer. John, who has 40 plus years of experience in wonderful environments, is not going to use one today. Tell me about that.
I don't use a meat thermometer. This is a small piece of meat. If you poke a piece of meat that's been seared on both sides and it's being cooked, what happens is you give what's inside of the steak at the moment for the roast an exit for the juices.
Yeah.
So when you put a piece of meat onto a hot surface, all the juices run to the center of the meat. Okay? As you're cooking it, it'll start to spread back out a little bit. Now you have it completely seared, and all the juices and the moisture is all throughout the product, the steak or the roast. Poke it with anything, you just made a hole.
If you notice, John's using tongs. If you notice, he's not using a fork.
No, never use a fork.
No.
Culinary school, very difficult, like military. Very last class, Scott the A room. Student poked his steak with a 2-pronged fork, and the French chef came up to him and took the fork away from him and said, "What happens when you poke your meat?" And he's like, "I don't know." He said, "Put your hand down." And he stabbed him in the hand. It bleeds. True story. It's crazy. So I use tongs, don't use a knife. Also, resting, because again, you want your juices to spread back through the piece of meat. Even a steak this thick, you want it to spread back. So it's a thing called resting. So by the time I take it off the grill, put it on our plate, sauce it, any other accompaniments on the plate, and then get it to the table to serve, the steak has rested long enough. So they can immediately start cutting into it and it won't bleed all over their plate. Okay? So that's the important thing.
So about how long, because I know we're not timing this, but when do you know how to flip? When do you know when to flip? How do you know when to flip?
It's by feel and also look. Okay?
I've seen some people touch the meat, John.
Right, and you can do that and see the temperature that it's cooked at. All right, the softer it is, the more rare. The firmer, the more well done. A lot of people will say you can do it by touching your thumb, soft pad here. Softer, more rare, firmer, more going towards the well done status. So you don't do that until you have flipped it and it's almost done, and then you can touch it.
Right.
Don't lick your fingers in this section.
God, no. All right, John, I'm gonna take a break just for a second here. We'll come back. We're flipping now. Oh, let's take a look before I take that break. Oh my gosh, look at that sear, everybody.
We flipped the steak. We got a great sear. You saw that. Now we have a great sear on the back. But I also, especially on these thicker steaks and fatty steaks, I want to stand them up on the edge. Both edges. I want those to sear. Okay? And again, what I'm trying to do is sear the fat. Because I will eat the fat if it's crispy. Now on prime rib, slow roasted, the deco, which is in that middle part of the ribeye steak of the Delmonico, is white. People won't eat it. But the meat's slow cooked and tender. This is high heat, crispy, crispy fat.
It's possible that my boys are better chefs than me, better cooks than me, because I've seen them do this before, John. Tyler and Spencer are excellent at it. Can we come and check on our mushrooms? Are the mushrooms turned off?
Yes, and they're ready. Seasoning, spoon to taste always works.
John, what are we going to do with that fat that is in the bottom of the pan there?
We can, it's beef fat, we can chill it and, use it on something.
I would dump it into my mushrooms. No, that's not something that's
it's kind of greasy.
okay.
So our steaks are done. We'll let them sit there for a minute. What we're going to do now is we're going to just toss the salad. So we have the arugula, the diced apple, and the Parmesan cheese. Okay. So now we're going to drizzle the leek olive oil, like so. Again, to your flavor. Vinegar is strong.
Is it about a 1-for-1 ratio?
No, it's more like usually a 2/3 to.
Yes, 2/3 of the olive oil. All right.
So now we're going to toss that. But in the interim, I'm going to take this plate and put my steak in the middle. How's that smelling, Brent?
You know how good it smells, John. You know we're eating good tonight.
So those are going to rest. I'm going to get another pair of tongs. See if I can find them in our drawer of goodies down there. David, oh, here's a pair.
Look at the utensils over there. There's like 100 of them.
Oh, there's so many things. So now, I don't toss salad until it's going out the door.
Okay.
Because if you dress it and toss it, it's going to wilt.
Okay.
So I'm adding a little salt and pepper.
Oh. Pepper, yes. Salt and salad, sure. I've heard of that.
So those are my 2 vinaigrettes. Now I'm just going to gently roll this. You don't want to mash it.
Yeah, we don't want to bruise, and we want to mix it through 100. You know, I talk about all the time how you want to get it so that there's a little bit on every leaf or whatever it is that you're mixing, but we do not want to bruise it. John said mash. I'm going to use the word bruise. Okay, John has just plated the salads. Such a simple salad, and they look so elegant. And here's our steaks that are resting.
Okay. Here's my cocktail. I'm gonna move that out of the way. So now,
Non-alcoholic cocktail. I'm the one drinking the red wine.
correct. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go ahead and sauce our steaks with our mushrooms. Bring that off the stove. Oh, that's wonderful. Now, you don't want to make a mess because presentation is everything, and we have a lot of senses. We use 3 when we're dining. Our first sense is our vision, sight. You want something appealing looking,
Right.
okay? Like such. You don't want to mess. Same thing I'm going to do here. I'm going to
John, even at my store, just to interrupt real quick, when we had our meat counter, we called it eye appeal is buy appeal.
Exactly.
And we did not want a messy meat counter. We wanted our meat counter to look wonderful. So yes, I agree with the eyes being a big part of it. Okay?
eyes. So that's your first sense when your dish is presented to you at the table. Okay? Second sense, smell. Okay? The aromas of the items are going to waft up into your nose. And then your third sense is taste.
God, he makes it look so easy, everybody, doesn't it?
And that's how you can present. You don't want stuff, you don't want fingerprints.
And John taught me that too. What do we call that? Rimming the plate? Cleaning the plate off? What do we call that?
Clean the plate, girls. Come on.
Yep.
Because when you're doing a larger dinner, you know, you can get busy. Now, you know, if you were to garnish, you know, you can put a fresh garnish. Nobody really eats garnish, but chopped parsley is a great garnish. You know, if you wanted to garnish your plate, fresh chopped parsley, and it also adds, again, sight, smell, and taste to your finished product.
Of course.
So, I just put a little bit of that rosemary on there. A little stick is kind of cool looking. And now, that is our meal.
Okay, Max, John's son. Hello. Say hi, Max.
Hi.
And John are going to try this out before I can go ahead and sit down. So go ahead and take it. Go ahead, you guys.
Very good.
You have to let me know how it turned out.
So, I always attack the tail, which has got a little bit of fat on it. And this is bison.
Grass-fed only.
Max is from Wyoming, resident of Wyoming now. He lives here on my ranch now to help me, but primarily he's running about 70 head of horse down at the ranch down the road. And he's eaten a lot of steak in his hunting guiding trips and also guiding very high-end 1%ers on their ranches. How's that look, Brent?
Let me get a close-up of that. Oh yeah, that's a medium rare steak if I've ever seen one. Max, how's your steak?
Yeah, it's good.
It's good. Okay, I'm going to sit down, everybody, and I'm going to enjoy. Cheers.
Cheers.